I drenched one patch of dead compacted soil with rice water for 30 days straight, and by the end it turned into darker, softer earth that held moisture, grew stronger plants, and even attracted earthworms, while an untreated patch right beside it stayed hard, pale, and lifeless. I began with a genuinely dead bed. This soil was sun-baked, pale, and so compacted I could barely push a trowel 2 inches down. Nothing grew there the previous season, not even weeds. To keep this experiment honest, I marked off 2 equal sections. One would get rice water, the other would be left alone as a control. My goal was simple: see if rice water alone could bring life back to soil that looked completely finished. On day 1, I rinsed a cup of uncooked white rice until the water turned cloudy. I strained that milky water into a bucket, then diluted it with 3 parts clean water so it wouldn't be too strong or attract pests. I slowly watered the test section until the top 6 inches were evenly moist, making sure not to splash into the control side. From that point on, I repeated this rice water drench 2 to 3 times per week, always using fresh rinse water from that day's rice. I kept everything else identical between the 2 patches. Same sunlight, no mulch, no compost, no fertilizer, and the same amount of plain water on non-rice water days. So the only real difference was that extra starch and nutrients from the rice. The cloudy water you get from rinsing rice is loaded with tiny starch particles, minerals, and traces of protein that, when diluted, become a gentle food source for the beneficial microbes already living in healthy soil. If your soil is completely dead, this gives those microbes something to work with so they can slowly rebuild the soil food web from the ground up, layer by layer, instead of you having to dump on a bunch of synthetic fertilizer and hope for the best. Within the first week, the change was small but noticeable if you pay attention to soil. The rice water patch started holding moisture longer. Previously, the surface would crack just hours after watering, but now it stayed slightly dark and pliable for most of the day. When I pressed my fingers into the test soil, it had a tiny bit of give instead of feeling like concrete. The control soil right beside it stayed brutally hard and dry, with new cracks opening every afternoon. I checked by doing the simple finger test, pushing a finger a couple of inches down. In the rice water section, the soil clung lightly to my skin, still cool and damp. In the control section, my finger barely got in at all and came out dusty. This immediate difference in moisture behavior was the first real evidence that something positive was happening below the surface, even though I couldn't see it yet, and it told me it was worth continuing the routine instead of calling it a failed experiment too early. By the end of week 2, color and texture started to shift. The rice water section had darkened from that washed-out gray-brown to a more medium brown, and I could crumble the top layer between my fingers instead of it breaking into hard chunks. To really test performance, I planted 4 identical bush bean seedlings in each section, spacing them the same distance apart and watering them at the same time. Within a few days, the beans in the rice water soil perked up, leaves opening flat and green, and their stems straightened toward the light. The ones in the control bed stayed shorter, with slightly curled pale leaves that just didn't look happy, almost as if they were hesitating to grow into that tough ground. If you've ever planted into poor soil, you know that reluctant look plants get, and that's exactly what I saw on the untreated side. Week 3 is when the biology really started to show up. As I gently dug a small test hole in the rice water section with a hand trowel, I saw the first earthworms I'd ever noticed in this bed, slowly moving through the soil. Their presence meant organic matter was increasing, and the environment was finally livable again. Around the bean roots in the rice water area, I found fine white feeder roots spreading into the loosened soil, instead of circling in a tight knot. In the control section, there were no worms at all, and the soil still broke into hard, blocky clods around the weaker bean roots. Even the smell was different. The rice water soil had a faint earthy scent starting to develop, while the control side smelled like dry, dusty dirt. Those worms and that smell are exactly what you want to see when you're trying to move from dead dirt to functioning, living soil that can support crops season after season. As the month went on, I kept the routine simple and consistent. Every few days I collected rice rinse water, diluted it, and soaked only the test side until the water just started to seep from the bottom of the bed. I didn't add compost, fertilizer, or any store-bought soil amendments to either section because I wanted to know exactly what rice water alone could do. By week 4, the rice water soil absorbed water much more evenly. Instead of water pooling on top and running off, it sank in quickly and disappeared, a sign of improved structure and pore spaces forming. The control side still shed water, leaving dry spots and shallow puddles that later crusted over. On hot days, the plants in the rice water section stayed turgid through the afternoon, while the control plants drooped earlier, showing more stress. On day 30, I carefully pulled one bean plant from each section to compare root systems side by side. The plant grown in rice water-treated soil had a larger, more fibrous root ball, with roots extending in every direction and clinging to crumbly, dark soil like Velcro. There were many fine root hairs, a good sign of a plant exploring its environment. The plant from the control side had a smaller root mass, with fewer side roots and more bare, compacted soil stuck in chunks. Above ground, the difference matched. The rice water plant was taller, with thicker stems and deeper green leaves that showed no major signs of nutrient stress, while the control plant was shorter, thinner, and just a bit washed out in color. To really feel the difference, I grabbed equal handfuls from each section and tested how they behaved. The rice water soil squeezed into a soft clump that held its shape but broke apart easily with a light tap, with visible tiny particles of organic matter and that richer brown color. When I rubbed it between my fingers, it felt slightly spongy instead of gritty. It looked like early-stage living soil, even though I hadn't added compost. The control soil barely clumped at all. It either stayed as hard chunks that resisted pressure or turned into dust. There was no pleasant earthy smell, just dry dirt. In other words, the rice water hadn't turned this into perfect garden soil yet, but it had clearly nudged it in the right direction. Now, it's important to be honest about what rice water did and did not do in 30 days. It did not magically turn dead soil into perfect, black, compost-rich earth you'd buy in a bag. There were still small clods, the organic matter level was only beginning to build, and this bed will still benefit from compost, mulch, and cover crops. But it absolutely improved moisture retention, texture, color, root growth, and biological activity compared to doing nothing. Think of rice water as a gentle, ongoing food source for soil microbes, and a small nudge toward better structure, not a one-time miracle cure. If you cook rice regularly, it's essentially free, and instead of pouring that milky water down the drain, you can pour it back into your soil life. So here's the quick recap. I took dead, compacted soil and split it into 2 sections. For 30 days, I applied diluted rice rinse water only to the test side and left the other completely untouched except for plain watering. The rice water side became darker, held water better, grew stronger plants with larger root systems, and started attracting earthworms and microbial life. The control side stayed hard, pale, and weak. Rice water alone won't replace compost, but it's a free, easy way to kickstart life in tired soil and support other organic practices you're already using in your garden. If you found this experiment helpful and you want to see more real-world tests like this on compost, soil health, and organic gardening, give us a like so more gardeners can find it. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next experiment, and drop a comment below telling me what you'd like me to try next on dead soil, such as banana peels, coffee grounds, grass clippings, or something totally different from your own backyard. Your ideas might become the next 30-day test in this bed, and together we can keep turning dead soil into living, productive ground.